I know it's a nice day, but we would like to get outside sooner than later, including myself. I'd like to officially call the meeting to order. It is now 10:33. If you'd all stand, we'll do the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you all. Seated. Okay. I'd like to just call for a moment of silence for our recent departed residents, friends, and neighbors, as well as those suffering around the world. A moment of silence, please. Thank you all. Roll call of board members, please.
Michael Messina,
Present.
Ed Whitman,
Present.
Mary Adler,
Mary Adler's on vacation. There will be no treasurer's report today.
Carol Butterworth,
Present.
Charlie Rock.
Present. Okay. Now, may I please have a motion for the approval of the May 16, 2024 open board meeting minutes?
Okay,
No, you just need a motion.
I move to accept the minutes.
Okay.
May 16th.
Do I have a second?
I second the motion.
Okay, all those board members in favor of approving the minutes state aye.
Aye.
Any nays? The ayes have it. The motion for the approval of the minutes is now passed. We'll now move on to the President's report, which will include motions, updates on several topics, and motions to present. Today we will have two motions to document at this meeting. The first motion is for the proposed replacement of clubhouse exterior doors and windows, and in particular that door and the window above it, that door and the window above it, and the back door frame to the back of our clubhouse. That's what we're talking about. Those door and window combinations are actually a single unit. The doors aren't closing properly, the seals are broken above, and they need to be replaced. And this was noted prior, geez, this is awfully loud. I'll move it away, sorry. This was noted prior to the cladding project, but it's separate and distinct on its own because it really has nothing to do with the cladding project. So this motion for $12,089 to replace these. Now I will now ask for a motion for what I have just described. May I please have a motion?
I make a motion to accept the service proposal from Mr. Keys for the replacement of 4 clubhouse doors and frames for the price of $12,089.14.
Okay, may I please have a second?
I second the motion.
Those board members in favor of this motion state aye.
Aye.
Any opposed state nay. The ayes have it and the motion is passed. The second motion is for planned upgrade of 3 of our 8 wells by federal irrigation at a cost of $24,310. I'm going to offer an explanation just like I did for the first time. Lake Ridge has a total of 8 wells. You wouldn't know that, it's not common knowledge, throughout our community. There was and is a plan to upgrade all of the wells over the course of a 3 or 4 year period. Last year we did 2 of them. This year we will be doing 3 of them. And in terms of the details about what this upgrade means, I'm going to leave that to Ray to explain as part of the manager's report. So this is federal irrigation at a cost of $24,310.50 for well upgrades. May I please have a motion for the 3 wells upgrading as I stated?
I make a motion that we approve the expense.
Do I have a second?
I second the motion.
Those members in favor of this motion state aye. Aye. Are there any nay? The ayes have it and the motion is passed. So to explain it just a little bit more, you have to plan, and if something is a lot of money and it involves 8 things, you gotta take little bites. Because you don't want to get them all at one time. So we did 2, we're doing 3, that's 5. We may be 2 next year, 1, we'll see what the finances are. But these 3 wells are supposedly interconnected, so they have to be done at one time. Gray will explain what they do, because I know, but he knows better than I. Okay, so that's it for motions, and continuing on with the President's report. As part of the tail end of the cladding project, and as mentioned at the last open board meeting, we're still in the process of straightening up the exterior front of this building. And as mentioned before, we are going to cut back the flower beds, and that will happen within the next 2 weeks, that our flower beds will become shorter, and we're going to fill them in with sod. So therefore, when you have to either mulch or do whatever down the road, you don't have to do that every 2 years. Sod is $1.75 a square foot, if anyone's interested. But this is an easier way, and it will clean up and make a straight line across. So we're waiting to do that, and within 2 weeks, that should be accomplished. Ray will report on other aspects of why we haven't done anything in front. And I'm just going to say this. I have noticed, my wife has noticed, there are weeds growing all over the front of this building. We took away the high ground of dirt. We took away all the mulch. So guess what happens when you do that? Weeds. So we just discussed at a pre-meeting here that the board needs to put some heads together and figure out we need to get a weedicide done or whatever in the front here as well as the annex because it's looking a little unsightly. So we still have not, after the flower beds are cut back, then we'll understand how much we have to do and we'll figure it out from there. So we are aware of the unsightly weeds and we're going to deal with them. Okay, now in terms of my pool report, I'm going to turn that over to Ed. Ed, you want to come up to the mic?
Thank you. Just want to let everybody know that the pool is open, and it's 3 weeks it's been open, and I think it's the best 3 weeks we've had. The water has been very warm for June, and I hope everybody is really enjoying it. I think our lifeguards are tremendous this year for some reason. We've got one of our lifeguards is a resident that works for the lifeguard company, and he is doing a super job. I would like to comment, though, that people are coming to the pool, please put in concern sheets. We want to know what you want at the pool. The pool committee is doing a super job of keeping that pool clean. Everything is organized every day. But please, we want to hear what you want. It's your pool. So please put in concern sheets, even if they're minor things that you want. I know there are no cleaning issues that I know of, but we want to hear what you want to hear. It's your pool, so we'll take care of it for you. Just let us know what you want. So thank you very much for the support. And thank you for the pool committee. They're doing a great job.
Okay, that's really it for my report. I'm now going to turn the floor over to Ed Whitman, our Vice President.
Good morning. Thank you for coming. As liaison to the Grounds Committee, I would just like to remind you that it's very important that you begin any concern you have with trees and roots or the border between your own property and a common. Please first initiate the process by filling out a concern sheet so we have a record of it. And to save a lot of time for members of the Grounds Committee, please don't call. Start with the concern sheet. Now the next step is that the Grounds Committee will come out and look. But to facilitate that survey, we need to have your actual survey, that piece of paper that marks where your property line is, so that we can determine what's on the common and what's on your property. Now, we've had recent cases in which people have demanded indeed, that trees be cut down because they're infringing allegedly on their property. When in fact, the trees are on the common ground. If there are branches that overhang your property, which is indicated by the survey you should be submitting, then you have perfect right to cut those limbs. And if there are roots that are similarly invading your property, you have the right to cut the roots. But you need to survey it, and you need the approval of the grounds committee to do any of that. And once that work is done, would be at the homeowner's expense, because it's overhanging the homeowner's property. In effect, it belongs to the home. That's fine. But in many cases, if you have a sunroom behind your house, it's very likely you have virtually no backyard. And so the common area extends to within a few, at most a few feet of your sunroom. So we've had some problems with people, insisting that their backyard is being invaded by trees from the common, when in fact it's not their backyard. So it's critically important, number one, apply to the grounds committee with a concern sheet, get a survey from the grounds committee, a member of the grounds committee will come out and look at the situation, determine where the property line is and where the offending tree or branches or roots are, then make a report, and you'll get permission to do the trimming if that's necessary, or roots. But this is at your expense. It's your house, your property, your expense. So please, concern sheet, get some from the grounds committee to come out, write a report, describe the situation, and then you'll get permission or not to do the work at your homeowner's expense. Okay? All right. That's my report.
Okay, thank you, Ed. We'll now move on to, since there's no treasurer here, and I said there's no treasurer report, we're going to move on to Carol's secretary report. Carol?
Okay. For your safety and security, please remember not to allow the car behind you to go through the entry gates when you go through. You don't want them to tailgate you. They might not have a pass. Okay, as board liaison for the Documents and Policy Committee, the committee now has prepared a list of 7 changes proposed in the restrictive and protective covenants, which will require a vote. The list is clearly stated, and it will be an insert in the July issue of the news. Then in July, will be a town hall in the daytime, and another in the evening, when our attorney will be present to take your questions and explain things. In due time, your votes will be taken on each item electronically or manually. So do look for your copy in the views. And I'd like to call upon Steve Agresta, who chairs the Documents and Policies Committee, and he will explain it to you fully. Steve?
Thank you, Carol. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm going to repeat some of the things Carol said, but I'm going to give an update on the Documents and Policies Committee. Just a little bit of background for those who aren't aware. A formal standing committee was formed at the request of the board in January of this year. And we had been meeting for about 18 months prior to that, looking at all of our documents, policies, bylaws, and we decided to move forward with, after looking at the documents, move forward with working on the declaration of restrictive or protective covenants. So the way it works,
The state and federal laws are the ones that we have to abide by. Those will be the top set of rules we have to follow. The next in line is our Declaration of Restrictive and Protective Covenants. That's a legal contract that binds the homeowners to the association and the association to each of the homeowners. And that document mainly identifies units, common areas, maintenance obligations of the homeowners and the association, and how the land and property can and cannot be used. So that one we focused on first, because all the other ones will basically depend on what's in that document, like the bylaws and the policies are dependent upon that one. So we wanted to look at that first. So, update. The committee completed its review of the restrictive and protective covenants along with a legal review from our new HOA attorney. I think you mentioned we retained this year, McGovern. There are several modifications, 7 that Carol mentioned, and they will be presented to the community for a vote. The next step, as Carol said, there will be a handout with a summary of the changes. So we're going to have the section of the document and the page number and the article and paragraph, what the current language is in the restrictive and protective covenants, what the proposed language is, and then an interpretive statement as to what it means, so everybody understands when they're reading the legal language what the impact is going to be. That will be distributed, if all goes as planned, with the next views at the end of the month. Then we're working with the attorney to have a town hall scheduled to present the changes and allow for Q&A. And I believe there's going to be 2, one in the day and one in the evening for people that work. After that, immediately after that, we'll schedule a vote through the electronic voting process. And the results will then be counted, and there is a quorum and a required minimum amount of votes in order for things to pass. As I said, there's at least 7 things that will be on there. You will be able to vote individually, not as a package. So if you want to vote for 1, 3, and 5 and no on the others, you can do that. The results will be communicated, the changes will become effective, and then we'll work on the remaining documents, bylaws, policies, and make sure that they are now consistent with what was implemented in the restrictive and protective covenants. And that's it.
Thank you. Thank you, Steve. Credit needs to be given. Steve is heading this up. This is something that's not been addressed since, I don't know when, 2006 or whatever, 7. Thank you. So, and this needs to be looked at periodically, and we put together the right bunch of people, led by the right person, to get this done. So thank you very much, Steve. Thank you. Okay. So now we're going to move on to, who goes next?
I will.
Charlie goes next. Okay.
Good morning, everyone. The Architectural Committee is busy with the applications and inspections, and there are some updates which will be implemented after the bylaws have been explained, voted upon, and ratified. The Home Sales Committee, the request form for open houses is available at the office. And some of the highlights of those forms, the form must be submitted no later than 4 p.m. the Monday before the open house the following Sunday. And board members may make an exception if needed. The open houses will be from 12 p.m. to 5 p.m. and cannot exceed 4 hours. So they can be from 12 to 4 or from 1 to 5. And real estate agents are allowed into the home one half hour before the open house begins. Only one for sale sign is permitted inside the window of the home. 1 sign and/or balloons are permitted in front of the house and are to be removed as soon as the end of the open house. And so far, it has been reported to the committee that a majority of agents that have expressed favorably to all the new forms required to be completed by both the buyers and the sellers. The RFID, which has been tabled for the past couple months, in lieu of reviewing some of our security tapes, we have noticed that individuals are using swipe cards at the Whitesville Road gate to enter into our property. And we want to remind you that giving swipe cards to anyone not living in the home is prohibited. Also, the gym committee has informed me that along with the vendor, in the future, they're going to try to reconfigure the machines to free up a little more room in the gym. But in the meantime, we have to remind you, please do not move any of the equipment on your own. There's limited space in there now, and we don't want anybody getting hurt trying to move some of that big, heavy, bulky equipment. And that is about it. Thank you.
Thank you, Charlie. We'll now go on to the manager's report, and it's got a lot to say, so please listen to many different topics. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. This will take a little bit of time, so feel free to put your feet up while we go through everything here. But just to reiterate or clarify on some of the topics that Mike made, with the treasurer's report, again, Mary's on vacation, but the monthly financials come from Taylor on and around the 20th, so the only financial report was actually read at the last meeting, so there is nothing new, so that was poured out until the next meeting. The cladding project, the construction is basically done. We've had some burps here and there. It was a very detailed project, as we really didn't know what we were getting into, and every time there was a piece of siding removed, we found something else wrong. But this long-awaited repair has been done as far as the construction goes. The installation of the ground cover is pretty much all that's left. The termite treatment has been reapplied to where there was a previous infestation years ago. The bait traps have been reinstalled around the buildings. Right now, Cut Above, who has the contract for the clubhouse annex and ornamental beds, will be installing the sod once delivered within about 10 days. That's going to cut back our planting beds, which would eventually cut costs on plantings, weedings, any mulch if it's ever allowed to be reapplied again. But they are also going to be spraying the weeds around those buildings and in these beds, since there's nothing been there and we're waiting for these plantings, weeds have grown. So we're trying to make it look as good as possible in the interim. Just to tail on that cladding project, KPI was asked, especially by over 100 homeowners, to come out and inspect their homes for any cladding issues that they may have. They did come out and inspect over 100 homes. They did submit a work proposal last month. However, it was a little confusing and not to our liking. Rather than coming out individually for each individual homeowner who was looking for a proposal or repairs, they classified each repair under the model number. Under their proposal, and each model number was a different amount, but they specified the same exact repairs for each model. So whether or not you needed the full repairs, you were obligated to get that repair, plus pay the full price of the repair up front. We didn't like that. So we've asked them to clarify it. You came out, you look at these homes individually, you have notes on these individual units. Give us a proposal on those units. I also was at a trade show for the industry 2 weeks ago, and was speaking to 3 other contractors. One of them I didn't even know was in the area for 20 years out in Trenton, but they all agreed to look at this and possibly provide the kind of information we're looking for. So I know everybody's been waiting for those results. As I said, they weren't to our liking. We're looking to get everything a little bit easier and cost-effective to the homeowners. So that's a work in progress. We had, and the board approved KipCon Engineering to come out and review and inspect a lot of the retaining walls, wooden tie retaining walls we have. 2 of the retaining walls that were of concern were out on the Vicari Road, the long 4-foot, 5-foot railing, and along Lennox Street. Out of all of them, these 2 are the longest. They are wooden walkthrough in October. I did another walkthrough in April. And they were of concern because we started to see wear and tear in a lot of these walls. We started to see a lot of algae in these walls, especially across the Macquarie, where the homes are right on top of these walls. They're not getting sun, so you see a lot of water rot on some of these areas. KidCon came out, they assessed the large walls. We're basically looking at the Macquarie first, the wall at Lennox second, but they'll be giving us a scope of work as far as how to proceed. This is something that the Finance Committee and the board discussed with KidCon late last year to look at the contribution in the reserve study, as it was not adequate for the repair or replacement of these walls. So we had to up that number of looking forward. Also, we're seeing that in some of these walls, especially the larger walls, it would be useless to go ahead and replace it with wooden ties again. We would probably be looking at block. Also with the Victoria wall, you have the homeowners on the second level there have overgrown trees, shrubs. They're going to have to be removed. Of course, they're homeowner owned, but they are impeding on the fence. You can see where some of the walls are buckling, but in order to put in the new walls, we have to put braces in back once we replace it. So with this project is going to be intense. It's going to take a lot of review and negotiation. Probably it won't happen until next year. We get some planning done. But I just wanted to give you an update on those the retaining walls going forward. We have the HVAC here with the clubhouse. We have the large number of units out in the back. They have gone over their warranty periods, and since I've been here, we've had 2 replaced. And we almost had 2 more incidents right after the cladding project, but they were able to find the wiring and get everything going. But the real concern are the units themselves. We have those big holly brush there, and speaking to our company who does the HVAC inspections and quarterly service, those holly shrubs can emit during moist weather algae or spores into the guts of the units, which could damage them. And also the way they're positioned now after the cladding, they're on their slabs, but they're not secured. What we're looking to do and what the project entails is that we're going to have those holly shrubs removed. The ground is going to be leveled to reinforce the base and of the units themselves, to keep them steady, so that we don't incur any other damage. And once and if ever the New Jersey Fire Code for commercial buildings is realized and approved, whether they'll allow mulch, which I severely doubt that they will, or we can put river rock in there and not put any more shrubs in there and keep the units safe and without damage. Irrigation wells, that was just mentioned by Mike. Again, these are the wells that handle the sprinkler and irrigation system throughout the community. Last year, when I came in, 2022, they did repair 1 well, updated the guts and machinery for it. Last year, they came in with a project for the remaining 7 wells. And it was a pretty exorbitant proposal. And I'm talking with the Finance Committee and the board, they decided to split this up over the next 3 or 4 years. We had the pricing, the number was plugged into the budget. However, with this year, they took the 3 wells that were of concern, and being that they're on the same irrigation line, they will be doing them 1, 2, and 8 together, and they're right out here in the front of the clubhouse in this system. What they're going to be doing is they're going to be outfitted with the weather track controllers, which will alert the system if it's raining. This way the irrigation doesn't come out during rainstorms. It'll also be able to put in the controllers and flow sensors that'll better track the water usage. We have to put in annual reports to the state as far as our water usage on the irrigation, and that averages around 3 million gallons a year. So this would give us better control. Of course, over the course of the year, prices went up a little bit on these repairs, but the way scheduled. We do have 99% of that into the operational budget, reserve replacement. Thank you. Well 5 was completed last year, 1, 2, and 8 this year. They're looking at wells 3, 4, and 6 in 2025 and conclude well 7 in 2026. These prices will be updated and plugged into the budget on an annual basis. Moving forward, one of the more popular topics over the last month and a half has been landscaping. And normally, especially when you're going to a new vendor, there is a learning curve. There were a lot of skips, there were a lot of misses. We've had weather problems here and there. It was the catch-up from the weather to get the grass that needed to be mowed. There were spots that were over-fertilized, that were personally fertilized by some of the unit owners that were higher than the regular lawns being serviced. The weather had delayed 2 of the pre-emergent and the broadleaf applications, which were just finished. And as I said, it was a learning curve for a lot to go on. I mean, the detention basins are done monthly by contract. And again, this landscaping contract is the exact same contract that Turfmaster has been following for the past couple of years. But monthly, the detention basins were to be done. They found that they could do the bottom of the basins, but their machinery was too light along the perimeter of the basins and were in danger of flipping over. Since then, they've had new machinery come up, and after last weekend, they were able to tackle the beds. They've assigned another crew at no additional cost to help out. Again, the tentative schedule is always Wednesday to Friday for resident areas and Saturday for the common areas, detention basins as we go. And we'll keep an eye on it. I mean, granted, over 20 years in the business, usually the only complaints I usually hear is landscaping or snow removal. They're pretty constant. And what I like to do is get the company involved. And in talking with Meticulous, although this is their first delve into it, their site manager and their foreman have been going out to individual homeowners who have put in the concern sheets or complaints and going out personally and talking to these people. It's still in progress. They're still going out. We're going out this afternoon too. But your complaints haven't heard. I know that there's a lot of people who are dissatisfied, disgruntled, but as I said, we're trying to make it better, and as time goes on, and they get familiar with the property, we'll get things going. The mulch along the common area tree rings and the gazebo and all, that'll be completed within the next week. That was a game time decision due to the fact that when we started the contract, we were unsure about how this fire code was going. Mulch installation all over back then was a question. Also, the common areas here, the clubhouse, had an overabundance of soil mulch applied. And rather than go out and then just throw money on top of money, we decided to have some removed, get some cleaned out, and reapply sporadically. This way it doesn't do any damage to the areas. I know some communities have the high balls around the tree rings, but I personally wanted to make sure that everything was on the up and up with this, and we were cost effective on it. So if there's anybody to be thrown under the bus for the mulch, it's me, and we'll have that taken care of within the next week to 10 days. Moving on, the census. Our community census went out at the beginning of the month. I'd like to thank the office staff for the work that they put in there, not only putting it together, but getting it mailed out and getting it mailed out in time. They have been returned, a good number of them. We are getting concerns and complaints, especially from newer and younger residents, about the validity of the census. Do we have the right to ask for this information? Isn't there some privacy involved? Well, it's been a policy for this community for a while, and we ran it by the attorney just to be on the safe side. And the association is entitled to ask for the information that is generally in a census. Lake Ridge actually goes further than many other communities in making the census a specific duty of the board, and it's outlined in Article 7, Section 2H of the bylaws, which states, "The association shall act not less frequently than every 2 years, the census of the members, determine the ages of all residents of the project, and the project's compliance with the Fair Housing Act. Such section shall obtain name and age verification for every person residing on a lot, except to the extent that particular persons have previously provided age verification copies, of which are still available in the records of the association." That's a question we're getting. If I submitted my driver's license for ID 2 years ago and it's still valid, do I have to submit it again? Not unless there was a change, but it should show your Lake Ridge address on that, and it should be a current license. In the context of an age-restricted community like Lake Ridge, this is very important to ensure that the community continues to qualify for the 55 and older exemption under the HOA. Aside from that, it is also important to ensure that other rules, regulations are being followed, such as leasing limitations. So the census is especially important from that perspective without even getting into the enforcement of other rules, having contacts in case of emergency, and etc. I wanted to touch on trespassing complaints that we've been receiving lately. They are specifically right now being received from residents on Rockport Lane and Vicari Avenue, with people coming over from the Fairways area. Residents on a concern are confronted these trespasses. We would really, we don't want you to do it. You never know what's going to happen. I mean, we don't mind, can understand you defending your property. And so far, it's been peaceful, maybe a little name calling here and there, but we want everybody to be cautious. But again, I've been discussion with Jackie over at Fairways on other matters, and brought this up as that most of the people are coming up from her community. So we asked her, number one, if she could make a plea to her homeowners not to trespass into our community. We're a private community. Her response was, we do, but we get invaded on the other side from, in our community too. It's hard to enforce. So I asked her if she would mind splitting the cost of the fence along that area with us, to which they laughed at. But what we'll be doing in the next week or two is, once we determine the property lines in that woods, we'll proceed with the same steps that we took on Lennox Street. We'll be installing the no trespassing sign and the trail cameras to get accurate records of everything going on. If you live in that area and you do see continued trespassing, please let us know. We want to keep an accurate count on this. The Helping Hands Group that's been previously announced at other meetings, this again is a group. It's not a committee. It's nothing official, nothing from the board, but this is being started as a group of residents helping your residents. And it's for minor issues. An elderly person, an elderly woman, an elderly man living alone needs the batteries in their smoke alarm change, a light bulb change, the filter in their heater or air conditioner changed. What they would do is they could call the office and say, I'm looking for somebody that can help me out. I have the batteries, I have the filters. They just need to come on over. And it would be a private interaction between residents. We already have 4 residents signed up for this. What we're looking for is a couple more people who may be interested, and somebody who would like to head this group. Somebody that the office can contact on request. And what they would do is they would get the request, we would give them the information. They could either respond themselves or put it out to another member of the committee and take care of this. It's not something that the board will sponsor or oversee. This is strictly for the residents, to help the residents. It's been successful in other communities I've been at, and we're hoping to see it started here. It's a very little call out, but you never know in the future. Some of the proposed projects we're still working on. Slow and steady repair inspection proposals were requested for the tennis courts. And Rick and I will tell you that it seems to be taking forever from our one vendor. We found another one, and we're waiting for that quote, and that should have been here about 2 months ago, and it's coming any day. But what we're looking right now is the repairs of the cracks in the tennis courts for the beginning. We did have drainage taken care of and outside the tennis and pickleball courts last fall that helped out, but these cracks continue to get water, it'll continue to crack and damage the courts. That's still underway. We've gone out and we've gotten proposals for concrete, a walkway, concrete ramp out here in the back of the clubhouse, repairs and replacement. We went out to 5 companies. I have 2 proposals right now, waiting on the 3rd. Well, actually 6, 3 companies, because of the scope of work, and it's not one continual concrete project, but spotty, they regretted not giving a quote. We are looking right now with the quotes probably in the neighborhood of 30,000 for the amount of sidewalk replacements, root removal under the sidewalks, and again, that ramp we're going to reposition to make it more of a handicap-friendly ramp. We've had trips out there taken care of. We were looking hopefully for late summer, early fall to start with this, but once that 3rd proposal comes in, the board will review and we'll get that information out. As I mentioned before, the proposed amendment for the fire code, which dictates the use of landscape materials such as wood mulch, prohibited around 18 inches of any building or structure, is still going through its stages. It has not been presented to the state yet for any enforcement. However, there has been clarification that residential homes would not be involved with this. They're looking more at commercial buildings such as our clubhouse, the annex, condos, townhome group clusters. So every day there's a different change, every day there's no progress. But pretty much what you see, what we're waiting here is some sort of clarification. How far can we go, what can we do? We're still on hold with that. And with that, I'd like to have the bereavement committee come up. I wanted to say a few words.
Good morning, and I'd like to thank the board and Mike for allowing us to have this program, which is very beneficial to a community like this. And once in a while, Mike will say to me, "Do you have any men?" And finally, I ran up to you one day and I said, "I got 3 men." But I have to tell you a cute story about one of the men. He was grieving, and his wife had passed away for several years, and he was happy to come to the meeting. And then he stopped, and about 2 weeks ago, he came to the meeting, and he said, "I went out on a date," and everybody clapped for him, which was very nice. You know, this is what grief is about. It's you're grieving, but you're looking for happiness. It doesn't mean you have a good or a bad marriage. You want to be happy, and that's what's important, and this was given to him. So we're going to be starting again after Labor Day, and hopefully if you have any questions, give me a call. Our participants do have a phone list. They talk to each other. There's a tremendous amount of support. Everybody grieves differently, and they find out that they're not going crazy because the other person said what she was going through, and they said, "Oh my God, I'm not crazy, I went through that." So it's a big help to have participants who are willing to help each other. And that's what this program is all about. I don't get paid, I'm a volunteer. I lost my husband many years ago, but this is my give back. It helped me tremendously. You don't have to talk if you come, if you want to go through the whole program without talking. Time will come when you will talk. Thank you.
And one final bit of information, I was asked to compile some information regarding a question at our last open meeting about the legal charges we had incurred since the transition. Again, we were paying Becker, Polycloth, Dave Ramsey $500 a month on retainer, and we switched to a different firm because we weren't getting the attention we felt we needed, and Dave's getting ready for retirement. He's a little earlier than expected, but Dave's an icon in the industry. He's very good for what he did. but we needed, the board needed to move forward. The legal charges so far, and McGovern's retainer fee is $750, so it was a $250 increase a month, I'm sorry. But it included a crew of attorneys that we could use in different circumstances. What we incurred so far above the retainer fee is in the neighborhood of $8,700. And the transition costs took a lot of it, getting the files from Becker Polikoff, getting everything up to date, their name, their introductions, going through our files, all those years of files, just to see what we had and where they may be of help. We had about $3,200 invested in amendment and policy review. They had dictated a number at an early meeting that it could take $1,500 to $2,000. We've gone back to them on a couple of occasions to look, to review, and go through everything that the policy and document committee is being involved with, attending a couple of meetings off the calendar that they were here, not only for the committee, but for the board. Collections was actually a good number, it was only $82. As this community is very well vested, we really only had one account in question, so there wasn't much to do there, and there were other unbudgeted fees of $2,800. So all total was about $8,700 just in the transition of the attorney. That'll start going down as we get acclimated. They have been doing their due diligence and working with the policy committee, recommending resolutions and areas where the community can be updated and covering for any liability or enforcement. But as I said, that was mentioned at the last meeting, and I was asked to research the charge. And that will conclude my report.
So as you can see, it's very easy to run this development here. There's nothing going on. I have to tell you, it's very eye-opening. Every week, there's something new to look at, and that's just the way it is. You picture your house, a 28-year-old house, every week there's something to look at. Now multiply that times 926 units, it's a daunting task. And I'd like to compliment my board members working with me and Ray. You know, I think we're doing a great job. Some people may not feel that way, and that's okay. And my answer to that is, try to do it yourself. Okay? That's it. Okay, I would now move to have a motion to complete the business portion of this meeting.
Okay, I make a motion to adjourn the business meeting.
Okay, I have a second from Ed. All those board members in favor of closing this meeting, state aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it, and the business portion of today's meeting is now closed.